Welcome to Joy of the Hang. I am your host, Sharon Stevenson, and I am joined today by Carla Armstrong, Director of Philanthropy at Gulfside Healthcare Services. She's a certified fundraising executive with more than 30 years experience in nonprofit fundraising and business sales development. We have a cat in the studio too this morning. Louie is joining us. Is that okay, Carla?
Absolutely. Louis is adorable.
Yes, we have a little friend with us. Carla speaks locally on the topics of hospice and palliative care, legacy planning, and community philanthropy. After earning her BFA in dance at the Juilliard School, Carla danced professionally while working in arts business management roles in New York City. Her experience has included being the operations manager of Gaynor Minden, associate publisher of Stage Directions magazine, and the director of corporate giving and sponsorship at the Straz Center for the Performing Arts in Tampa. Carla joined Gulfside Healthcare Services in 2011 as the director of philanthropy at Gulfside Healthcare Services. Carla is passionate about connecting people who believe in the importance of hospice with a way to support it through donations and volunteering. Carla is president of the Rotary Club of Land O'Lakes, a past board member of Leadership Pasco, and a member of the Association of Fundraising Professionals. She achieved designation as a certified fundraising executive in December of 2014. In addition, she was vice president of the Leadership Pasco class of 2014 and a graduate of the Leadership Tampa class of 2011. Personally, Carla is proud to be a sixth-generation Floridian, married to her husband of 23 years and mother of 2 adult children. Yeah, you don't meet many actual Floridians, do you?
I know, we're a rare breed.
We're all transplants, so that is something to be proud of. In addition to being a professional fundraiser, Carla is a ballet teacher and choreographer at Contempo School of Dance. She was a project choreographer with Central Florida Choreographers Collaboration from 2019 to 2023, with whom she choreographed and directed award-winning dance films. Carla also earned a first-degree black belt in Taekwondo and was a national champion at the U.S. Open for Martial Arts in 2012 and the Battle of Atlanta in 2013. Oh my gosh, I don't know where to start now. There's
keep
so
in mind it
much.
was the old ladies category, so it's all good.
Girl, you know what? I competed in bodybuilding when I was
Awesome.
at 50. Well, that was my first competition, so I totally understand the old lady category. I'm like, what am I doing up here on stage next to all of these skinny 20-somethings, right? But I held my own. No, sounds like you did too.
I managed.
First degree black belt in Taekwondo. How'd you get interested in Taekwondo?
My son was taking Taekwondo and it looked like fun. And I was of a certain age and I went, you know what? I need to do something to get more active.
Yeah.
That looks like fun. I can't dance anymore. I used to, but not as much. And I said, let me try it. And I loved it. Had a blast. And I was there several nights a week.
How long does it take to become a black belt in Taekwondo?
I think it varies a lot depending on the studio. I think mine took 4 to 5 years.
Okay.
Which is pretty short. So I think some are more stringent and make you really study for a lot longer. But
do you still practice?
No, unfortunately, not since COVID. I got out of the habit.
Okay.
And haven't gotten back in.
So other than being a fierce, badass lady with a black belt in Taekwondo, what else do you learn from Taekwondo, though? Isn't it, it's more than just what's the word, like an exercise, right? It's a more spiritual type of a practice, isn't it?
Well, and I think what I loved about Taekwondo is it was a lot like dance for me. Okay. There is almost the ritual of, you practice every single day. You're practicing the same things over and over. You're trying to get just a little bit better than the day before. It takes a focus and a concentration that's almost meditative. And I really enjoy that, being able to kind of let everything else go out of my head and just be in the present and focus on that one thing. And then in addition to that, it just made me feel more prepared if something happened. If I needed to do anything to protect myself or protect my children, I just felt a little bit better about being prepared for that.
I love that. So for our listeners, so you have 2 children, you said, and I think you just told me they're 21 and 23, boy and a girl.
Yes.
And did you take Taekwondo with your son?
I did.
Did your daughter take it too?
She did. And my husband did.
You all did?
We all did, but my son is the one who started. And when we tested for black belt on the same day, and he tested first, which means he outranks me.
I'm sure he reminds you of that.
He was very proud of
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
I still outrank you, Mom, right?
Exactly.
I love that. And so your daughter, is she a dancer too, like you?
She studied dance, and then
Okay.
at some point she was like, "Oh, I need to do some other things." She's an artist. She's a visual artist, and then she also got her degree in psychology.
Okay.
So she really loves that.
And you were just telling me your son actually followed in your footsteps, and he is studying dance at Juilliard.
Yes. I think he's the first dance legacy in the school's history.
No way. And what form of dance?
He likes ballet and contemporary.
Okay.
But really, Juilliard dancers are trained to do anything.
To do all.
So they really want to create sort of a chameleon where any choreographer could come in and they can adapt to that style and just be their muse.
Love that. So what's he hoping you do? Dance professionally?
He is.
Yeah.
Yeah. In about a year and a half, he graduates.
Okay.
And his hope is to dance in Europe.
Okay.
He really wants to travel, see the world. And in Europe, you can make a living.
A living dancing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little tougher to do here in the United States.
I think that's fantastic. Good for you, Mom.
Oh, well, he's doing all the work.
Well, right. I know. But we still have to encourage, we still have to show up at practices and get them to practice, right?
Yes.
I mean, as parents, we have to support our children's dreams.
Well, now we go up to New York every chance we can
I
to go see
love
him
New
perform.
York.
My husband and I met there.
Oh, you did?
We did. So we look for any excuse to go back to the city. We miss it.
Love New York. So my daughter just started, she had started college at Columbia in New York.
Okay, yeah.
But she only made it a couple of weeks. She hated New York. So now she's back in Boston. She graduated from college in Boston and was going to Columbia for her graduate program. And she still may, because she's actually she wanted to be a theater director and still does. So, but she's having a few health issues. So we're going to take care of her health issues. And then, so she's deferring and might go back. But I love visiting her in New York too. I mean, it's just such a fun city. There's so much to do.
Well, I moved there when I was just a few weeks after my 18th birthday. So I feel like I kind of grew up there a little bit too. Became a young adult there.
You moved there, but you are a 6th generation Floridian.
I am. I am. So.
What part of Florida?
Pinellas Park.
Okay.
Tiny little Pinellas Park. I grew up there my whole life.
Well, I am a several generation, I don't know how many, Mainer.
Okay.
So I'm a transplant here, and I've only been here for about 4 years.
It's a little bit warmer.
It's a little warmer. There's no snow to shovel.
No,
But here's the thing. Now, no disrespect to Floridians, but there's no change of season here. I don't even realize that it's fall right now.
Right. I agree.
You know?
Actually, that is the thing. Like when I first moved to New York, I was like, oh my gosh, this is what seasons are. I had never experienced them.
Right.
And I miss it.
All my friends back home in Maine now are going apple picking. They're having fresh donuts. They're making apple pies and drinking apple cider. And I'm so and they're wearing their fall.
And it's still 89 degrees here.
Here, it's just still perfect. You don't see any pumpkins. Oh my God. So I do miss the seasons.
Yeah, I actually miss them too. It was beautiful.
And I traded deer for dolphins. So that's okay.
Well, that's
not bad.
Yeah, that's a great trade-off too.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't miss the snow. Do you miss the snow?
I didn't mind the snow. I honestly, being from Maine my entire life, I actually really enjoy the seasons. And I love the first snow of the season. That's a special, I just think it's magical. So there's something about that. Yeah.
I loved in New York, when it would have that first snow and it would be fresh before the city kind of muddied it up. Yeah. And I lived near Central Park for several years. And so we would go into Central Park where it was just beautiful and white and clean and just a dream.
Yeah, it really is something special. But I agree. I mean, by March, you're kind of over it. And by the time the snowplow is putting all that snow at the end of your driveway and it's a pack of ice and you can't get through it. Yeah, that's no fun.
No.
That part of winter is no fun. But anyway, let's talk about your work in hospice care.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just tell our listeners, like you said earlier, a lot of people are afraid of hospice care or don't understand exactly what it is. So why don't we start by explaining what it is when somebody might need hospice?
Yeah. So a lot of people don't realize hospice is for anyone with a prognosis of 6 months or less. So it doesn't matter their age, their gender, their illness. If they have a prognosis of 6 months or less, they meet the criteria for hospice. And I think people are often afraid of it because they think it's the end. A prognosis of 6 months or less doesn't mean it's only 6 months. I mean, there's no crystal ball for any of us, right?
Right.
So sometimes it is shorter than that, but sometimes it's longer. And what we've seen is that those who receive hospice services actually live on average 71 days longer than somebody who did not receive hospice. And I really think it's because most people don't realize it's what I always say I think healthcare should be, where we don't just look at the physical, we look at the mental, the spiritual, and the emotional. And you have this entire team that help you feel the best you can and make the most of your days and try to improve the quality of life so that the time you have left can be spent the way you want it to the best of your ability. And so it includes doctors, nurses, social workers, chaplains, and even bereavement counselors to kind of help with anticipatory grief, right?
Mhm.
Those fears and thoughts. And having that entire support system makes a difference. And I've seen people who actually, their symptoms actually improve because when they have that entire support system, they're not alone. And then what it brings to the caregiver. I mean, caregivers, I think, are the unspoken heroes
Mm.
in our society right now. There are so many people who are taking care of not just children, but parents at the same time. And the burden of that is really just enormous and it affects their health too. So being able to come in as a hospice team and try to relieve some of that burden and allow them to be the daughter or the son
Right.
instead of the caregiver has a real impact.
Yeah. And like I was telling you earlier, I think, it's so important for our listeners because so many women, especially
Yeah.
in our age group, and I'm just going to say 50 plus, are now caring for aging parents. Yeah. I mean, we don't often know if they're diagnosed with a terminal illness, what services are available to us, right?
Right.
And how we're supposed to navigate the system. So,
And navigate's a great word because I
yeah.
think that that really is a lot of what hospice brings is you're scared, you don't understand what's happening. Is this normal? Is this going to hurt my loved one? All of the hospice team are there as resources to let you know and educate as a caregiver. This is normal. Here's the best way to take care of your loved one. We can help. We can show you how. So a lot of it's also education.
So let's walk our listeners through that. So let's give the example that okay, I've gotten a diagnosis that my mom now has 6 months to live, right? And obviously I'm shocked, I'm sad, all the emotions, right? What's the next step? Does the hospital put me in touch with hospice? Do I have to reach out? I know you said that there's private facilities as well as nonprofit facilities. So how does one get in touch? Walk me through the
Yeah,
steps.
there's usually two different ways.
Okay.
So often it could come that a doctor refers a patient to hospice and says, I really think at this point hospice is what's going to be the best for you. And so they might refer to a hospice. You always have a choice. As we just talked about, there are different hospices in each community. So you have choices, and that's a good thing. Another way, though, is if you, as a family member, or even as someone, if it's yourself, you can reach out directly to a hospice and ask them for an evaluation and say, can you come evaluate me and see if I'm appropriate for any of your services? Now, for example, Gulfside Healthcare Services, hospice is one of three different types of healthcare we provide. We also have palliative care, which palliative care is essentially comfort and pain management, symptom management for chronic illnesses. So it's
Okay.
an illness that's not going to go away. And palliative care is hospice care. It's specialized for end of life. But we also offer palliative care for many different types of illnesses as well.
So like ALS, for example.
Yeah, Crohn's
Crohn's.
disease,
Okay.
pulmonary diseases, anything with the heart disease. These are things that you might have the rest of your life. Let's figure out how to manage them so you can have the best quality of life for as long as possible. And then we have skilled home health. So that's usually short term rehabilitation in someone's home. Instead of having to go to a rehabilitation center, we actually bring the rehabilitation to the patient so they don't even have to leave their home. So when we do an evaluation, we're not just looking for one, we're looking, okay, what's the best fit? Because maybe they're not ready for hospice, but palliative care would be a good option for them to help manage their symptoms. So as we do that evaluation, the doctor will take a look and then go from there and offer choices.
Are these services usually covered by insurance? or are they
Um,
out of pocket?
no, typically, well, it depends a little bit so on the type of service.
Okay.
So the most common one is hospice. Hospice is a Medicare benefit. So if someone qualifies for Medicare or even Medicaid, we receive reimbursement for that so the patient doesn't have to pay. A lot of private insurances also cover hospice as a benefit. But as a nonprofit, Gulfside is committed to ensuring that no patients turned away because of an inability to pay. That's our nonprofit mission. And so even if they don't qualify for Medicare or Medicaid or private insurance, we still say yes. We take them and they'd pay nothing.
Which
Nations.
communities do you service?
We have been in Pasco County for more than 35 years. We just entered Hillsborough County earlier this summer, and we're entering Pinellas County before the end of this year. So we will be serving all of Tampa Bay.
Oh, wow. That's great. There must be a big need in this area, I would imagine, because we have such an aging population here, right?
There is such a need, and actually, that's why we're entering Hillsborough and Pinellas. Most people don't realize hospices are still regulated by the state with a certificate of need process, which means you can't just open up a hospice. The state looks at the number. They say, okay, this is the number of patients who should need hospice but aren't being served by the current provider. And therefore, there needs to be an additional one. So it's a competitive process. And Gulfside was awarded that certificate of need in both Hillsborough and
Oh,
Pinellas.
that's great. And you said you just opened a new center.
We did.
Tell me about that.
It's so beautiful, and I know it's going to bring so much to the community and to the families. It's a 24-bed inpatient hospice care center. It's the Dr. J. Weil Center for Hospice Care in Newport Richey. It's, being in Newport Richey, we're near the Gulf, so it's got a modern coastal theme, all blues and beiges. You enter, and it's just so serene and peaceful. Very large private rooms. But what makes it really special is the only hospice care facility in the Tampa Bay area that was specifically designed for patients on ventilators to allow for compassionate extubation. What that means is if someone is to be taken off a ventilator, hospitals are a really difficult setting for that. They do the best they can, but it's not really good for the patient or the family. Instead, they can be transported now to our care center, and the family's given the time they need to gather, say their goodbyes. There's no rush. And then when they're ready, we can help with that process and just create a much more peaceful environment for
Mm,
that.
that's beautiful.
It really is when, people don't realize what a need there is for that. And I've talked to nurses. I've given the tour of the center, and the nurses are all almost in tears because
Yeah.
they've seen what that experience is in the hospital. Like I said, they do the best they can, but that's just not an environment that's really amenable to it.
So I would imagine the difference would be in the hospital, it's kind of just sterile, right?
A
It's
lot of
just,
noises, beeping, people rushing
yeah,
around, trying, because
small room.
they're trying to save lives, right?
Correct.
And that is what they were built for.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's just not the best.
Okay, so they'll actually put them in an ambulance and
Mhm.
transport them to that facility, and then
It's got hospital grade oxygen levels, so we can really make sure that they're absolutely comfortable until the time comes.
okay, all right. Yeah, do you offer other services after that in terms of support for families?
Absolutely. We offer not only to our family members, we offer 13 months of free bereavement counseling, and that's not a limit. If they need bereavement counseling after that, we continue it. But I'm really proud that we've been able to offer bereavement counseling to anyone in the community who's suffered a loss.
Mm.
And I can share a story. A friend of mine several years ago lost her husband quite suddenly to a heart attack. And I checked in with her and I was like, "How are you doing?" She's like, "Oh, Carla, I'm fine. I'm going to be fine, Carla. I'm fine." And then about 6 months later, she called me up and she said, "Carla, I'm not fine. I really need help." So I was able to put her in touch with our bereavement department. They did a little bit of one-on-one counseling, some group counseling. And, you flash forward a year later and her life had changed. She was able to move forward. She found a new way to live through that next chapter. She ended up moving to Colorado to be near her grandchildren. So I miss her. But I'm so happy for her that I feel like they saved a life. And they do that for thousands every year. Our bereavement services touch at least 4,000 people every year.
It's reminding me. So back in Maine, we have an organization called the Center for Grieving Children. Are you familiar with it?
No, I'm not,
I
but
don't know if they have it around here, but in Maine, I think somebody local started it, and I loved it because I actually lost my father when I was very young, and it was the same thing. It was sudden. It was an accident, so it was sudden. And when I was young, it didn't exist. But the organization does is they bring children in who are often left out of the conversation and the grieving process because the people tend to go and take care of the widow, the grieving spouse. But they forget that these children also have feelings and have suffered a trauma. So I love what the Center for Grieving Children does, which is they bring the children and the grieving spouse all together to talk about what's going on for them. So, and a lot of it doesn't come up, as you know, until later in life.
yep.
A lot of the symptoms don't show up. But anyway, I just think that's a beautiful organization too, to kind of recognize the lost kids that they do that could kind of get lost in the system, I think. So anyway, that's very similar, it sounds like, to what you're providing too.
Well, and it's interesting you mentioned that because we do see that need. In fact, that when I mentioned it's open to the community, right? They don't need to have known somebody on hospice, where the needs that were coming to us were children who had experienced a traumatic grief. And so we actually, because of that, we invested in traumatic grief counseling for our bereavement counselors so they were equipped to really help those
Children.
children and family members who had had a sudden loss because it is different.
It's totally different. I don't think people understand how children process because we're not full, our brains aren't fully developed as children.
Mm-mm.
So we don't understand when somebody leaves us suddenly.
No, not at
So
all. And a lot of children who experience that really struggle,
yeah.
um, as it's understandable.
Right, right. I did for a long time because you don't understand any of it. So you have this constant, for me, it was a fear of abandonment.
Right.
You know, all of a sudden, this person that loved me so dearly and called me his baby girl was gone. And it was a closed casket because the accident was so bad. He was unrecognizable. When you have that person that in the morning, you're like, he's on the phone saying, hey, I love you. And then by that afternoon, they've literally disappeared from your life. It's this kind of, reminds me of probably how the people felt when the buildings were hit on 9/11, right? It's just this suddenness of 1 minute they're here, the next minute, like completely vanished. It's really hard. It's a hard thing to, as you know, to process.
Yeah, it's a very different than what we typically have, right?
Right. It's
So,
a slow, like somebody has cancer or what, heart
right.
disease. It's a slow goodbye.
Yeah. And
Slow
I
home
think
goodbye.
that was actually, what I mentioned bereavement counselors
Yeah.
have what they call anticipatory grief because we have family members who, even before their family member,
Right.
the patient passes, they're already anticipating it and grieving the loss before it's even happened.
Yeah.
And starting to think, I don't know how to live without this person. How do I live? How
Yeah.
do I cope? So those are all parts of the process that we support them through as well.
Yeah, I love that because I imagine I'm thinking about that couple that's been together for 50 years,
Or
right?
more.
Or more. Now the husband's passing away and he's done everything for the wife, maybe, and maybe she doesn't know how to pay the bills, right?
Right.
Or do you offer all that too, kind of support on how
Well,
to start?
yeah, I mean, it's more from the grief and the
Yeah,
bereavement, but
yeah.
we have social workers, and
Okay,
that's their
good.
role, right?
Yeah,
The social worker is to help them navigate, and if it's not something we do, provide them with the resource that can. So be that connector, because there are a lot of different nonprofits in the community ready to help.
right.
People just don't know who they are. We're not trying to be everything to everyone.
But you
We're
can help connect
definitely,
the
yeah, we're
dots.
going to connect them to
Connect
somebody
the
who is an
dots.
expert at that. We're an
Yeah.
expert in our area, and then we connect them with others who are experts in that.
That's so important because you're right. I mean, every situation is so different and every relationship is so different, and you don't know what their needs are, right? So people have to really,
Well, that happens even with patients while they're in our care. I mean, like I said, we take care of everybody, every socioeconomical level at all. And some of the patients we come to, they literally do not have enough money to feed themselves or feed their
yeah,
pets. And I've seen that where we've had some where they have their pets, they're actually buying the food for their pet and not for themselves.
themselves.
So we actually have programs. We put them in touch with a lot of the food pantry and support where they'll bring it, like Meals on Wheels and others. And then we actually have a pet peace of mind program. It's really to support hospice patients with pets through that end of life journey together. And so if they need extra food or they need their pet brought up to code on vaccinations and things, we can help them do that. We even had a patient once who really needed to go into our care center to help manage their symptoms because it was difficult to do in the home setting. We really needed to monitor 24/7, and they wouldn't go because they didn't have anyone to take
Take
care
care
of
of
their
them.
dog. And so we were able to reassure that patient and say, look, we're going to put it in a really wonderful boarding facility. They'll take very good care. That way we can take care of you and manage your symptoms and then hopefully be able to reunite you. Like once we figured out what works, we can bring you back home and then we can manage it there and then reunite you. And
Good.
so sometimes it really is such a relief for the patients to have
Well,
that
and having
support.
their pets it's so healing for them to have their pets close by too,
Yeah.
right?
So one of my joys is I mentioned I have a dog and two cats, right?
Yes.
And my dog Yogi was a pet of a hospice patient. She had rescued him from St. Croix. I mean, he really came from far away. He's an immigrant. And she brought him over, and shortly after, she found out she had a terminal illness, and he had been abused, so he was really a rescue, true rescue. And she was absolutely just worried because she said he cannot go into a shelter. He will shut down. So I was able to, so when that happens, and she didn't have a family member who could take care of him. So we put the word out, and I saw that little flyer and I said, I think Yogi needs to come home with us. And so we met, and the patient he was terrified of everybody. But within 5 minutes, he came up to me and she said she had never seen him do that with anyone. So it
Oh,
was meant to be. And
what kind of a dog is Yogi?
he's a Great Dane mix.
Oh, he's a big
He's a
boy.
big boy, but he's still a goofy puppy. He really is a puppy. But it was so wonderful to see that relief. And then she and I communicated all the way throughout the rest of her illness. She loved knowing where he was, that he was well taken care of. And she said, have no idea how much that has given me peace to be able to do
Oh,
that. So that's just one of the programs we do. I mean,
well, that's
it's a wraparound. It's how do we help this person who is this 360-degree person,
yeah,
not just a body.
exactly.
Mhm.
Holistic care.
Holistic, absolutely. I always say it's what healthcare should be. I kind of wish it were.
I know. Well, I think we are leaning more that way.
Yes.
I feel like we're realizing that,
How important that
yeah,
is.
yeah, that healthcare is leaning more towards well care than just, I think hospitals have their place, and certainly the
Mhm.
medical establishment has its place in terms of handling trauma situations and that sort of thing. But I think we need to move as a society more towards well care and taking better care of our
Completely agree.
body and nutrition and all that stuff. So, what led you to be part of a hospice program?
It's interesting. So there's sort of two parts to that story. And the first one is my hospice story with the first person I ever knew on hospice was my grandmother. And she had pancreatic cancer, which was a really difficult diagnosis. And she was on hospice, I had the best conversation with her in the last weeks of her life and I never had that with her. They were able to keep her comfortable, and she knew it was near, like this was going to be one of our last conversations. And it still resonates with me. And then weeks later, when the end came, it was on Thanksgiving morning. So the family had flown from all over, wherever we were, and we were there. I was the last person to arrive. She knew it. And within minutes after learning that I was home and I was there, she passed away. And a hospice worker came and spent Thanksgiving Day with my family as we were grieving her. And I remember thinking, they're giving up their family holiday to be with us. Like that I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe somebody would do that. And so I remember always thinking then, I said, one day when I'm able, because I was young, I was a very young adult with no money. And I said, one day I really want to be able to give back and say thank you for this because it meant a lot to me and to my family. So years later, you mentioned my background. I was in for profit for a long time. I did advertising and sales, and I was doing well, and I realized I still wasn't happy. I thought making a lot of money would make me happy, and it didn't. And so I thought, what could I be doing that's more impactful and purposeful? I need purpose. And that's when I first started fundraising. So my first fundraising position was with the Strass Center, and I loved it. And when my time there ended, I was really looking for where can I go that I can't ask for a donation for something I won't personally support. And so when I was looking at the causes that were really near and dear to me, I remembered hospice. And so I interviewed with Gulfside, and it was just a match made in heaven. It's like, it'll be 14 years in just a couple of months. And it feels like yesterday, but every day I feel like I'm still helping people like my grandmother and my family.
So, for some reason, I'm feeling really called to ask you, what is the one thing or what are the top 3 things maybe that when someone's nearing the end of life that they say or that they wish they had done or that like, what did have you ever asked, like, what advice would you give or they give at the end of their life? I
That's
mean,
a good question.
yeah, I mean, I just always wonder,
I
like
don't know that there's an answer for everybody because each person's so unique.
yeah,
I think what is normal is for most everybody does what we call a life review.
yeah,
You're thinking, what are the things I'm most proud of? What are the things I wished I'd done differently? What are my greatest regrets? What did I do that I wished I hadn't? What
yeah,
do I wish I had done and I never did? And I think that's normal. So I think a lot of it is just, it's cliche. But if there's something that you really want to do, don't wait. Do it while you can. So if you have the means to do it, at the end of your life, are you going to think that this is what was the most important thing? The barrier that's stopping you from doing what you really want to do? And if the answer is yes, okay. But often it's not. Sometimes I think we're like, well, if it's really the end of life, I would, step aside and go do that thing that I really love.
yeah.
So it's hard to answer. I think it's so unique for each person.
Have you been able to witness anyone crossing over, and are you like, what would you say that experience is like for
I have not.
people?
I
Yeah,
have been near it, like within hours, but I haven't. I know though talking to our nurses who
yeah.
have, it's moving. It's very moving. And what a lot of people are surprised, like so often patients sometimes don't want family members with them. I think that was the biggest surprise that I learned is that family members would stay and stay and stay and they didn't want to miss being there. And then our nurses say sometimes they can instinctually tell that the patient's waiting to be alone. And so
Mhm.
the loved one might be encouraged to, go get a change of clothes or go just take a break. And the patient will pass within minutes. If they were waiting to be alone. And others, it's the opposite. They're
They're
waiting for
waiting
their
for
loved
some
one to be there.
like in your
They will,
case.
yeah, my grandmother, I truly believe she was the other, where she was like, she was very much knew what she wanted and she wanted it her way.
Yeah,
And so it had to be her way. So she insisted, she said, I want everybody home. I want everybody here. And as soon as she heard every single one of us was here, that's when she was ready. And so I think it's just different.
yeah.
But some it's quiet. I think sometimes you don't even realize it. It's just that quiet.
I just often wonder if, if I were given 6 months to live and there was no, we don't know if it's 6 months or 3 months or a year, right? But we know we're nearing end of life. I always wonder, like, what would you wanna do differently? What would you do in that time if you knew that was all you had left, right? I mean,
Mm.
but are these people so ill that there's not are they just laying in a bed and waiting, or are most people
It depends a lot on the
okay,
illness,
okay.
and it also depends on, at least in our case, like if they're on hospice, how soon they started. So I think, that
Oh,
speaks to what we had kind of talked about a little bit,
no,
which is a lot of families tell us they wish they had accepted hospice care
sooner.
sooner because they didn't realize how much it actually improved that person's ability to just have a better quality of life. So we do. We have some patients who feel well enough and they'll even travel,
Yeah,
they'll go see family members. They'll do that
one
last
last
trip,
time,
right?
yeah,
Some want to go to their childhood home one last time,
yeah.
anything like that. Others though, it all depends
They're
a
all
lot on the
different.
type of illness.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, it's such a heavy topic, but it sounds like you make it so beautiful, right? I mean, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's so
It can be.
yeah,
It really can be. And I think it's not always. but it can be, and I think that we rely on experts to be experts for a reason, and this is Gulfside's expertise. We come in, our nurses, our doctors, our social workers, our chaplains, they are all called to this kind of work. It's not an easy type of work, and we always say you kind of find out really quickly if hospice is for you or not. But for those who it is, they love it. They're passionate about treating that person the way they would want to be treated and the way they would want their own family to be treated in that situation.
You also mentioned to me that a lot of people are cared for in their own homes
Yes.
whenever possible and not in a facility.
Y-
So explain to me how that would work and how you would support families in that way.
Yeah, the best way I know to describe it is hospice is not a place, it's a type of care.
Okay.
And we bring that care to wherever the patient calls home. So that could be their personal residence. It could be an assisted living facility, a nursing home, independent living facility, any of those. It could be a relative's home. It could be any of that. And it's again bringing that entire team, because let's face it, if we're not feeling well, do we want to go out somewhere strange or do we want to be home?
Yeah,
We wanna be
exactly.
home.
Wanna be
We've
mhm.
created that environment that makes us feel happiest. So, it really helps that patient, stay where they want to, because most don't wanna go to a hospital. I don't think anybody voluntarily wants to go
I don't
there.
think so
Like I
either.
said, they do a great job, but
No,
it's
either.
it's just not conducive to quiet. They're always waking
Yeah,
you up, they're checking your vitals, I
so
you just
true.
wanna be calm, but yeah.
It's so true. So how do you help support the caregivers?
Yeah, we have a wonderful caregiver support program. A lot of it is education. I think that's the most common thing because caregivers are often really, really deeply worried that they're going to do something that would hurt their loved one or do the wrong thing. So a lot of it's just education, helping them understand here's the best practice for doing this. Here's what's normal. Even just knowing what's normal and what's not,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you feel like, am I crazy?
yeah,
And then that's stressful. So really helping with that. And then of course, we offer counseling. We have peer support groups. Sometimes it takes another caregiver to know what you're going through,
yeah.
to feel that peer support, like you get me, you're taking care of your mom, I'm taking care of my dad, and these are the struggles we're facing. You need that peer support as well. So we facilitate that too.
I love that. Is that a 24-hour support? Can it be, or is it just checking in once in a while, or
It
how does
can
that
in
work?
an urgent, like in a critical or urgent, we have a real person who answers the phone 24/7. So
Yeah,
there's no voicemail.
yeah,
Right? We're always going to have a human being answer the phone and then gather information so we can have the best person reach right back out to you. As far as the caregiver, yes, if they have questions that they can have concerns, they can call us anytime.
yeah.
Most of them, though, because we're visiting the patient often throughout the week, most of those concerns are addressed during the visit. But yeah, they can always call if they have questions.
So if I'm at home and I'm caring for my aging parent, or if I'm caring for a spouse that's ill, or whoever got the news that they're at an end of life situation, so my choices would be to continue the path on my own without support, or call a facility like yours and say, "This is I need help in these areas,
Yeah.
and what can you do?"
Yeah. And I,
Yeah,
and I, and we have a team that visits several times a week, and that support is a huge relief to caregivers. I will share sometimes it's not enough. Sometimes they also have to supplement it with personal home care. So, because we can't be there 7 days a week all day,
right.
right? So we do visit frequently throughout the week, but sometimes they do have to supplement that with personal support. But the difference is, it's covered by Medicare or Medicaid or
Oh,
private
good,
insurance,
good.
and they're not having to pay out of pocket for that.
Yeah, I have a sister-in-law whose mother had Alzheimer's and
Mm.
ended up being in an Alzheimer's facility, but that was a really hard one for her, especially as the illness progressed.
Alzheimer's and any dementia is really difficult on the caregiver.
Oh, yeah,
It's just a tremendous burden. We do see that a lot.
yeah. Do you see a lot of people with that disease specifically at
Mhm.
Gulfside? Yeah, I
Yes.
imagine.
Yeah. I mean, it's especially with an aging population, it certainly is one of the many illnesses we are trained to help with.
So if somebody needed help, needed support, how do they get in touch?
Yeah. So we offer free evaluations first to see, like I'd mentioned, we have actually, besides hospice, we have that palliative care, we have that home health. So
Mhm.
we can evaluate anybody for any of those. So we're going to come in, see what's the best fit. It might be somebody's not ready for hospice. They don't have a prognosis of 6 months or less, which is great. But maybe they have a chronic illness where the symptoms feel like they're not being well managed. Our palliative care team can also help manage those and improve their quality of life. But they really just contact us. Gulfside.org is our website. And we have a phone number on there as well. You can contact us via email, a contact form, many different ways. Also, if they feel more comfortable, they can talk to their doctor and ask the doctor for a referral. Sometimes the doctors will help with that as well.
That's great. Any other advice you can leave us with for families who might be struggling with this?
I think call early. It's better to evaluate and find out you don't need it
Yeah.
than to wait too long. That is the most common thing I've heard from families where they said, we just really wish we had called sooner. We had no idea.
And I imagine you provide hospice care for all ages.
All ages. I mean,
And we're talking a lot about aging parents, but I'm sure
we
that
have
there
we
are a
have
lot
had
of,
children. I remember when I first started at Gulfside, shortly after we admitted an infant who'd been born with a genetic disorder where they were going to lose the ability to swallow and eventually breathe by the time they were about a year and a half. So that was those are always really hard on our team when you see the children. But yeah, but we do take care of all ages. And like I said, all backgrounds. We're here for everybody.
yeah, and life goes on.
Life does go on. That's why we have a team that helps people figure out how to do that, how to manage their grief and
Yeah.
find that new chapter.
I recently published a book called Joy of the Hang, which is named after the podcast, but it's all about connection. And I talk about the arc of connection from birth, or I call it from womb to tomb.
Yes,
And I always say at the end, the connection and the hang hangs on. We hang on through the memories that we've left behind or our legacies that we've left behind. So even though the body has passed on, the soul lives on in the people that we've
absolutely.
touched through our lives. So, yeah, so I think we have to remember that as we're grieving the loss of a loved one, right? That,
Yeah. And we see a lot of families who have experienced that. Their way of healing sometimes is to give back,
yeah.
is to, you mentioned I'm director of philanthropy, so I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that there are ways for people to support and make this care possible. And honestly, I find most families, it's part of their healing to pay it forward to somebody else. And so that's a beautiful way to just keep ensuring
So
that
they
this
can
is over.
also go on your website and donate
They can also make a
to help
donation.
support.
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you do a fundraising event at all?
We do.
Okay, well, let's talk about that.
We have, all right.
Let's
So
promote your fundraising
we
event.
have 4 fabulous fundraising events. One is coming up. It's coming up November 16th. It's in Zephyr Hills on Main Street. It's called Polypalooza. It's an
Polypalooza.
all-day music festival, and actually was started by a guy named Paul Correa, otherwise known as Paulie. And he's the owner of Sun State Aluminum in Zephyr Hills, but he was a musician on the side. And years ago, we took care of his dad. And after that, his birthday was coming up, and he said, I don't need anything. He said, but what I'd like to do is I'm going to throw a little birthday party and just raise some money for Gulfside Hospice to say thank you for taking care of my dad. He got all his musician friends, different bands to come and play all
Yeah.
day. $5 for a wristband donation. And they just got to listen to free music. He raised a few $1,000s.
Fun.
And he thought, this is fun. He said, I'm going to keep doing this. This 14th year. Now we shut down Main Street.
Yeah.
We now have 60 food trucks and vendors, all day music, bands. It's a known event. And then we also have our Candace Bluen charity fashion show
Okay.
for our fashionistas. That is on
I don't know any fashionistas.
No, of course
I don't know
not.
any, maybe a couple.
And that's the first Tuesday in December in Manor. And that actually usually sells out a couple of months in advance. In fact, I think we only have a handful of tables left,
Oh,
like
that's
maybe 10.
great.
And then we do a motorcycle poker run. So we go from the glitz and glamour to the leather and chaff. So a bunch of gnarly motorcycle riders. They're awesome. They're
the most giving community.
I was going to say, I always say this, they look rough and tough on the outside, and they are gummy bears on the inside, and some of the sweetest, kindest people I've ever met in my life. And Golden Eagles Motorcycle Club is just one of many that's been doing the Hit in the Road for Hospice for more than 10 years. And that one, raises a lot of money as well. And then our last event, we're moving it to Tampa this year in honor of expanding to Hillsborough, is our charity casino night.
Oh, fun.
Very fun. We are a lot nicer than Hardware. So if you haven't played casino games or you were too scared to try, this is the place where you want to go. They teach you how to play blackjack, Texas Hold'em. They give you hints. Like, you're like, hit me. And they're like, you don't want to do that.
Really want to do that.
So
stay out of 5.
Yeah, trust me. Hard Rock is not doing that. But it's a lot of fun. At all of these events, we always, of course, have different raffles and auction prizes and everything. So just a way to win and support the patients.
A lot of ways to support you and support the patients. I love that.
Yes.
Thank you. Great. You're very welcome. So so if you're in the area, and I know a lot of you are, please go to Gulfside's website,
Gulfside.org.
Gulfside.org to find out more about these amazing events.
Yes.
And how you can donate and contribute and support Gulfside Hospice in our region, right?
Yes, the whole Tampa Bay community.
The whole Tampa Bay community. So please check that out. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It was so much fun to talk.
And thank you for all that you do to help all of these people with end of life. It's such a difficult time for a lot of people. So
we're honored to be able to take care of loved ones.
Thank you for that. All right, everyone, take care.